Obi-Wan. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in since the last season of Clone Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi is finally here, with Ewan McGregor once again donning his Jedi robes, Hayden Christensen returning as Vader, plus a few other familiar faces. We just got a 2-episode season premiere of the Disney Plus miniseries directed by Deborah Chow, and it's already casting the Kenobi-Skywalker dynamic in a whole new light. But before we get into that, we're about to spoil everything in the first 2 episodes of Kenobi. So if you haven't seen them yet, or you just don't care to hear things from our certain point of view, now would be the good time to saddle up that Eopie and go hide in a cave until we're done. Okay, now that we're past the spoiler warning, let's get right to the good stuff. Young Leia Organa has been kidnapped, taken from her adopted home on Alderaan, and that is what's so important that it draws Obi-Wan away from the most important guard post in the galaxy on Tatooine. The Inquisitors know he's still alive, and speaking of which, we can all stop complaining about the Grand Inquisitor's looks because he's dead. Unless he's not. In which case, keep complaining. Unless he's a different Grand Inquisitor than the one we know died in Rebels, which takes place after Kenobi, and he just looks and sounds pretty close to the... You know what? We can talk more about that later, because for now, he's just been run through by Reva, who is way better at the job than anyone else. We are pretty sure his death breaks the canon, assuming all of those caveats I just said. We'll get back to that in a few parsecs, so stick with me. Anyway, by the end of part 2, Reva fills Obi-Wan in on a little secret. Anakin Skywalker is alive, something Kenobi didn't think was possible, which is a reasonable assumption since the last place he saw Annie was in a molten lava without a leg to stand on. Literally. I know that's a lot to dump on you all at once, so here's a quick recap to show you how we got there. The series opens on Order 66 with a group of younglings running for their lives as the 501st Legion attacks the Jedi Temple, just like they did in Revenge of the Sith. Yet another depiction of this pivotal moment in galactic history. We've now seen Order 66 from lots of different angles, but still no word on who smuggled out sweet little baby Grogu. Revisiting the scene is a good way of retconning the state of Force users post-Episode 3. Order 66 didn't immediately eradicate all the Jedi, and quite a few younglings and Padawans managed to escape, planting seeds for new stories to tell during the dark times. We've already seen this play out in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Anyway, fast forward a decade, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is trying to lay low on Tatooine as he watches over a 10-year-old Luke Skywalker growing up on the Lars Moisture homestead and the future site of the most killer barbecue this side of the Dune Sea. Owen Lars hates Kenobi's guts and blames him for Anakin's death and wants him to stay the heck away from Luke.
So leave him on the farm with his family, where he belongs.
Inquisitors are hunting Jedi, and they pay a visit to Tatooine where they lure one out of hiding. It's just not Kenobi. Enter Inquisitor Reva. She's ruthless and wants to find Kenobi at all costs, even though the Grand Inquisitor is constantly trying to get her to forget Kenobi and get back to work finding smaller fish. She apparently subscribes to the old adage that there's always a bigger fish, and Kenobi is the biggest fish there is. Reva hires Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers to go to Alderaan and kidnap Leia from her home with the wealthy aristocratic Organa family. The Flea Circus leaves town with Leia in tow and heads to the cyberpunk world of Daiyu, where they use her as bait for Kenobi. See, Reva did her homework and found out that Kenobi and Jimmy Smits' Bail Organa were close during the Clone Wars, so she cooked up this Leia caper to draw him out, and more on Leia in a minute. Reva tracks Kenobi to Daiyu, but so does the Grand Inquisitor, who kills Flea with his fancy spinning lightsaber, something that will surely never happen to him, except yes, it does. He tries to stop Reva from capturing Kenobi, and she addresses the fan outrage that the live-action Grand Inquisitor doesn't look enough like his animated counterpart by murking him on the spot. But the more I talk about it, the more I think he's just not dead. I mean, if he is, well, more on that in a minute. Kenobi and Leia escape Daiyu, but not before Reva informs him that Anakin Skywalker is alive. And Kenobi is like, uh-oh, because cutting off 3/4 of someone's limbs and leaving them in a volcano seems like a pretty foolproof way to make someone not be alive. Luckily for Obi-Wan, one of the defining tenets of the Sith is forgiveness and letting go of old grudges.
The rebels' hidden fort.
Wait, no they're not. The Sith are all about revenge. They made a whole movie about it. Part 2 of the Obi-Wan premiere ends with a shot of a still very lava-damaged Vader floating in a bacta tank and basking in his hatred for his former master. And well, everything else. Revenge of the Sith definitely didn't have a happy ending, but also didn't linger too long on Obi-Wan's state of mind. That's what this show is here to do. At best, he's a traumatized survivor of a galaxy-wide coup that left almost everyone he knows slaughtered. At worst, it was his failings that ushered in these dark times. And which is worse? Thinking you murdered the closest thing you had to a brother because you failed him as a teacher? Or finding out you didn't even manage to do that right, and he's still alive, dedicating his time to killing off anyone who's still practicing your ancient religion? As George Lucas said, Star Wars was meant to rhyme, like poetry, with themes and motifs, not necessarily repeating themselves, but echoing each other. Plenty of people were livid that The Last Jedi turned their childhood hero Luke Skywalker into a bitter old man who shut himself away from the rest of the galaxy, but that's exactly what Obi-Wan was. And this show is giving us a better look at how we went from a hero of the Republic to a crazy old man who lived in a van down by the river, a cave down by the Dune Sea. 10 years on from Order 66 and Obi-Wan is not thriving. He's working a job that he hates with a commute, and he's lost faith in everything he's ever believed in. The only thing that's keeping him going is this kid and his sense of duty to him. In the scene when Obi-Wan encounters the young Order 66 survivor Nari in the desert on Tatooine, Nari is a stand-in for Rey from The Last Jedi. He's approaching this legendary Jedi Master, asks him for help, and the Master turns him away. He doesn't toss a lightsaber over his shoulder exactly, but he tells Nari what he should do with his.
Take this, walk into the middle of the desert and bury it in the ground.
It's the same energy, that's all I'm saying. That said, perhaps Nari should have taken Kenobi's advice, because he is eventually found lacking by the Inquisitors, who make a grisly example of him to the rest of the town. But, just like Luke, Obi-Wan eventually is spurred into action by a mission that's every bit as important as his slow descent into hermithood. And man, is Anakin gonna be pissed when he found out Kenobi buried his lightsaber in sand.
I don't like sand.
She needs you, Obi-Wan. We can't trust anyone else.
Not that we couldn't use a change of scenery from Tatooine, but when we saw the neon signs of Daiyu in the trailers, we immediately thought what could be so important to draw Obi-Wan away from Tatooine in the first place. Now we know Anakin and Padme's other gifted Force-sensitive youngling was in danger, kidnapped by a criminal basist employed by an Inquisitor. We got a better look at what Alderaan was like before it got repurposed into an asteroid field, and it definitely seems like Leia got the better living arrangement of the Skywalker twins. Young Leia is a lot like the Leia we've seen all grown up. Courageous, headstrong, and not shy about mouthing off to those she thinks have it coming.
You've never made one decision for yourself in your entire life, and you never will. I may not have seen much, cousin, but I can see that.
And Jimmy Smits returns once again as her adopted father, Bail Organa. Bail has become some major connective tissue bridging the prequels to the original trilogy. He's popped up in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, and Clone Wars, and Rebels in between. In Obi-Wan, however, he's acting as the spark that will light the fire under Obi-Wan's to stop moping around and act like a Jedi Knight for a change. In turn, Obi-Wan rescuing Leia adds a whole new layer to A New Hope, specifically the message Leia sends that is undermined by
"Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope."
For ages, that read like a pretty desperate long shot. Hey, Mr. Kenobi, you know my dad, right? But this rescue mission sets a precedent. And since Star Wars rhymes, Obi-Wan busting into Leia's cell to save her is a lot like Luke doing the same thing on the Death Star in A New Hope.
I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you.
But Bail makes a very important point to Obi-Wan to finally convince him. Leia is just as important to the future of the galaxy as Luke for the same and also totally different reasons. That seems to sink in with Kenobi, and with Uncle Owen boxing him out from even giving Luke some toys to play with, and needing those Inquisitors off of Tatooine ASAP, agreeing to this side mission might not be a bad idea. He also had to go protect Leia, even if he knew he'd be walking into a trap, which he does have some experience with.
I sense a trap.
Next move?
Spring the trap.
Anakin Skywalker is alive.
Obi-Wan is at the top of the Sith Inquisitor's most wanted list, or at least at the top of Reva's. The others don't doubt that he's out there, but seem less hell-bent on tracking him down over any other Order 66 survivor. Their ultimate goal is to wipe out the last remaining Jedi, and Obi-Wan isn't the only survivor. Inquisitors have popped up in Rebels, Jedi Fallen Order, so now we should probably just expect Inquisition anywhere Jedi are laying low at this point in galactic history. Considering the Inquisitors report directly to Darth Vader, bringing him his former master, and the guy who left left him for dead in a volcano, would probably be a quick way to get a promotion.
What is it you think you will gain by capturing him?
When I'm old.
So right away, Reva is awesome. She's brutal, she's ruthless, and she wields the dark side with a ferocity that's fun to see in live action. Reva is evidently more career-driven than her supervisor, and she cuts out the middle management, quite literally. In most workplaces, sabering your boss is probably a big HR no-no, but something tells us Reva's not going to get into too much trouble when she tells Vader that she did it because he was standing between her and Obi-Wan. Plus, we're talking about Sith here, so being duplicitous and backstabby, or gut-stabby, to further your own ambitions is probably right up top in the employee handbook. How Reva knows that Anakin and Vader are one and the same is still unclear, but we'll put a pin in that and hopefully get some answers later.
I'm just going to take you to me.
It seems like a pretty safe bet Obi-Wan and Vader will face off before this show is over. This whole show would feel like kind of a ripoff if they didn't, but it's also ballsy in terms of canon because it could lower the stakes of the first Star Wars lightsaber duel ever put on film at the end of A New Hope. There was a mild uproar when the Star Wars comics retconned the timeline so Luke and Vader met prior to The Empire Strikes Back, but ultimately it was handled well and added some nuance to a beloved scene. It seems like the Obi-Wan show will take a similar approach, and it might also answer one burning question: why would you hide Luke Skywalker from his father on his father's home planet? Let's look at this from Vader's perspective. For starters, Tatooine is covered in sand, which he hated before he got turned into a walking air purifier, and it's not exactly home sweet home. Since the last time he was there, he literally watched his mom die. Owen Lars is technically Vader's stepbrother, but they didn't have much of a relationship with Shmi out of the picture. So chances are Vader doesn't think too fondly of his home turf. And even though they first met there, it's probably not a place he associates with his old master. And as they say, if there's a bright center to the universe, Tatooine's the place it's furthest from. Our theory is that when Vader and Obi-Wan finally do cross paths, it won't be on Tatooine. And it'll likely end with Vader thinking he's killed Obi-Wan. In A New Hope, he's almost surprised that he senses Obi-Wan's presence. And if he had the slightest suspicion that his old master was laying low in the Outer Rim, he'd probably have sent sand troopers to comb the desert long before the Death Star plans were lost. But if Vader and Kenobi meet, it means that Kenobi would probably have to fake his own death, or at least be assumed dead by series end.
What do we do now? We run.
And now it's time to run down the Easter eggs we spotted, so get ready to punch it even if you happen to hate flying. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, just announced at Star Wars Celebration. It seems to share a lot of story threads with Obi-Wan Kenobi as the game franchise continues to tell the story of the Jedi who lived through Order 66. That busted spaceship toy Obi-Wan buys from the Jawa does eventually make his way to Luke, and you briefly see him playing with it in A New Hope. That's a T-16 Skyhopper, the ship he would eventually use to bullseye Womp Rats in Beggar's Canyon. At one point, there were plans to show Luke's full-size Skyhopper in A New Hope, but that got cut due to budget and or time constraints. So the miniature was used as a toy instead, and now that toy has a backstory. The Dark Times have not been kind to the clone troopers, and Tamora Morrison cameos on Daiyu as a down-on-his-luck clone trooper. Thanks to the Bad Batch, we've seen the start of what happens to the clone troopers after the Empire stops using them. They abandon them completely. C-3PO is indeed the protocol droid on Alderaan, and he's credited in the role. That one bounty hunter is not 4-LOM. It's actually one Jack, according to director Deborah Chow. Kenobi is closed off to the Force as he hides on Tatooine, the same way that Luke Skywalker is on Ahch-To in The Last Jedi. He ultimately calls on the Force to save Leia's life as she fell from the rooftops on Daiyu, the same way as Cal Kestis does in Jedi Fallen Order when he was forced to save his friend Prof. When Obi-Wan dug the lightsabers out of the sand, it kind of mirrors how Rey Skywalker buries Anakin and Leia's sabers at the end of The Rise of Skywalker in the sand. I hate sand. We mentioned Flea earlier. He's Needles from Back to the Future 2 and 3, and also he's the bass player from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And Kumail Nanjiani plays a hilarious phony Jedi scamming people out of their hard-earned credits in exchange for Force blessings, basically. Obi-Wan presses him for info on where to find Leia, and in the end, he winds up being a good dude who just likes credits.
Do I like credits? Yeah. There's so much stuff you can buy with credits.
Okay, so this one is a little tricky, like we've said. The Grand Inquisitor, yes, Reva gives him a cool new body piercing by the end of Part 2, and if he is dead, this seems to directly contradict his death in Star Wars Rebels, which isn't scheduled for another few years on the canon timeline. So that means this series rewrote the canon, or that means that Rupert Friend's Grand Inquisitor is an entirely different Utapaulian former Jedi turned agent of the dark side. And unless this guy's got a twin, our theory is that we haven't seen the last of the Grand Inquisitor in this series. Although, what if he was an unaltered clone? That could work, right?
Yep.
Thanks for having my back, young Boba.
Sure.
But what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi? Is all of this leading up to Obi-Wan faking his death? And did the Grand Inquisitor's death break the canon? Let us know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching this episode of Canon Fodder. And for more Obi-Wan, get caught back up on his whole story leading up to the new series. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.